Hello and welcome to Panoramic Edition, where we discuss national, regional and international developments in depth. Bahrain and Malaysia share a long-standing and dynamic relationship rooted in mutual respect and shared aspirations. Over the years, both nations have built strong ties as the leadership of both countries has consistently supported efforts to deepen cooperation and expand partnerships. From trade and investment to education and tourism, the bilateral agenda continues to grow stronger. Malaysian-Bahraini collaboration is also reflected in regional and international forums promoting peace and progress. Both nations enjoy a strong foundation of people-to-people ties that enrich this diplomatic relationship. To talk more about that, we are pleased to be joined here in the studio by His Excellency Dato Shazryll bin Zahiran, Ambassador of Malaysia to the Kingdom of Bahrain, right after this. Welcome back. We are pleased to be joined here in the studio by His Excellency Dato Shazryll bin Zahiran, the Ambassador of Malaysia to the Kingdom of Bahrain. Hello and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you for having me again.
Definitely. Your Excellency, the last time we did this interview, there were so many potentialities that were going to come up in the cooperation between both countries, and we're really excited to see the updates on that. But first off, let's go a little bit back to the history. Since 1974, the Bahraini-Malaysian relations have always been witnessing these various stages of constant development in all kinds of aspects and fields. What can you tell us about the significance of this remarkable history?
Before I proceed, again, allow me to express my appreciation to Bahrain TV and to Panoramic for having me again and having to be interviewed again by you, Sarah. It's definitely a joy for me. Now, going back to your question, if you recall last year I mentioned that we celebrated our 50th anniversary of relations between Bahrain and Malaysia. And during that path of 50 years, definitely there's a lot of engagement and also the expansion of relation had taken place. It started off, as I mentioned previously, it was at the political front, bridging relations, bridging the understanding between two countries. And then furtherance to that, we started to establish a further engagement in the economic front. We established our embassy to deeper strengthen the economic aspiration of both countries. And we had grown into becoming a partner of Bahrain in its aspiration to become a forefront in the development spectrum. Yeah. So from that on, I have never looked behind anymore. We continue to go forward. And we also brought in a lot of our expertise. We had our Malaysians who are being taken up into the industries in Bahrain, be it in the private sector, also in the public sector. So definitely those are the elements that we had gone into deepening our relations between Malaysia and Bahrain for the past 50 years. And now we are looking forward for the new shift of engagement with Bahrain, definitely making it into deeper relations as we see the growth of our relation taking a new path in the coming times.
That would be actually my next question, because there are a lot of targets that have changed or goals that have changed since last year. I mean, that was just the start. But how would you describe the current outspeaking Bahraini-Malaysian relations?
Well, one thing as an ambassador, we always aspire ourselves to ensure that the relations between Malaysia and Bahrain, or any country, but in the context of myself, is looking into what are the ways that we can further advance those relations. And in the month of February, we had our Prime Minister at the invitation of His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince of Bahrain and the Prime Minister of Bahrain, who extended the invitation for my Prime Minister to undertake an official visit to Bahrain. That definitely opened up doors of strengthening further relations, and that had shown through the relations between the two individuals who had a very good chemistry in trying to move the relations further. Mm-hmm. Subsequently to that, we saw several of the ministers from Bahrain undertaken a visit to Malaysia to look into the areas that was mentioned by the two leadership of Bahrain and Malaysia, particularly in the sectors of banking, halal development, industrial development projects. And later on, we had the Prime Minister of Bahrain himself, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, who took the opportunity to join the other members of the GCC to the ASEAN Summit. And at that point of time, his presence there immediately elevated the aspiration of Malaysia and Bahrain's relations, and we also had several MOUs signed. So this had significantly shown progress, which I've never seen for the past years that since the embassy has been established. But we have drawn it further towards creating a much more established relations with the updating of our MOUs between Malaysia and Bahrain.
Definitely. Over the past 5 decades, there have been a lot of milestones and achievements that have been reached when it comes to the bilateral relations. And because of these milestones and because of the trust in this kind of cooperation, more have been added to it. Let's talk first about the achievements that have been done until now.
One of the, I would say, main achievements that we can say between Malaysia and Bahrain is that we have achieved to create a bridge of business relations between Malaysia and Bahrain, which we have never done before. Especially when it's been headed by the two leadership, my Prime Minister, His Excellency Dato Shazryll bin Zahiran, and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, who are spearheading this undertaking. And that itself have elevated certain elements in the business strata that we look at, very specific areas which they are making sort of action plans that definitely we have never seen coming in. And this action plan requires all government approach between Malaysia and Bahrain, all stratas of the government facilities to implement all those plans. And this is where the two embassies, which the Embassy of Malaysia here in Bahrain, as well as the Embassy of Bahrain in Malaysia, had to move things forward. This is something relatively very new, and it's been highlighted within the plan of action between both countries, particularly in the area of economy. What area of economy you're talking about? We're talking about in the establishment of areas that would probably be both interest for both countries, particularly in banking sector, which is Islamic banking and also fintech. So they have elements under that which we will define it further for every sectors to implement that. And we're also looking into food security, which is something is very important for Malaysia and Bahrain. And this is where we are giving focus, and this is not simply an aspiration by the government itself, but the aspiration for the leaders, from the leaders themselves. So this is what I said, I would say the leap that we have never seen before, which would rather be translated into a strategic partnership element, with Malaysia and Bahrain is looking into venturing in the coming times.
It's amazing to see how so much work really flourishes, and you reap those fruits of what has been started and initiated. How have the leadership of both His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa and His Majesty Sultan Ibrahim shaped the direction of these mutual relations?
Alhamdulillah, I have to say, with the leadership of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa and also the King of Malaysia, Sultan Ibrahim, this special relationship between these two premier leaders of the world had significantly drawn the energy of the country to look into opportunities that we have never seen before. I feel very opportunity for me to be here, and also an opportunity for all people of Malaysia and Bahrain to take advantage on. The relationship that these two leadership has actually is the driver that push things forward. And because having an institution that carries an aspiration like these two leaders allows us to look into something, I would say, even at the greater depth. So, and it is not simply on a political engagement, but more of personal engagement between two countries as aspired by the two leaders. So this is a lot of work for all of us. And we need to come up with a strategy, which we're already coming up with a full strategy coming in the coming months and the coming years. It may not, I may not be able to see the fruits of that labor, but definitely for the past 4 years that I've been here, during the first year that I've done, where I had to bring in a lot of energy in bridging relations between the Malaysian private sector and the Bahraini private sector, and now you have seen that there are some transactional elements taking place, be it financially or at the same time from people to people travel engagements and discussions, and definitely you can see this is a growth that you will see coming in the coming times. So it may, as I mentioned, it might not be seen during my time because I'm already 4 years here.
Yeah.
I really hope I will be able to see this maybe by the end of the year for something relatively something unique to happen.
Yes, yes, definitely. I mean, you've put the gears in action, in other words. Your Excellency, you talked a little bit about the sectors where the countries are collaborating economically. And just to go back to that point, the reason the collaborations are within the specific sector is because of Malaysia's very far experience and very deep experience when it comes to the Islamic banking sector, when it comes to innovation within the banking and financial sector, and also Bahrain's long-term experience in fintech. And putting these together is a very unique step. What can you tell us about the furthering of these steps and how to augment it to have a better impact for both countries?
This is where, as aspired by Malaysia, who is the present chair of the ASEAN, we brought in the GCC together with ASEAN, and also expanding it further with the ASEAN, GCC, China.
Yeah.
So this is where we look at, and having Bahrain being part of GCC and Bahrain having the special relations in Malaysia definitely elevates these elements of relations between ASEAN, GCC and China. This is where we are looking at. We would like to capitalize on the special relations that Malaysia and Bahrain has, and leaping it together with the GCC as well as ASEAN, and building this strong political and economic corridor between these three sectoral areas or regions in the world. We are talking about 12.6 trillion worth of economic value between 2.15 billion of population. So definitely there's a lot of elements that can be taken advantage from.
Yeah.
This is why we, Malaysia, feels that having Bahrain championing a lot of economic, I would say, strategies, especially under its 2030 economic recovery or economic plan, is something that we are aspiring to work together with Bahrain. And in the context of the ASEAN GCC, China, it is making it a much more greater opportunity for Bahrain to take advantage from. And during the visit of His Royal Highness participating at the ASEAN GCC China Summit, there were a lot of issues that was touched by the leaders, and which was agreed upon to further immerse itself into the new elements of economic shift between these three regions, and using ASEAN or Malaysia as the bridge to connect between the GCC and China, as well as between GCC and ASEAN itself. So Bahrain can be a a strategic partner of Malaysia with Malaysia and also ASEAN in this context. So the leadership from Bahrain and Malaysia had seen this even before any other country saw that.
Right.
So this is an advantage that we feel that we can work together as we move forward in grappling the issue of the new geopolitical issue that the world is facing, as well as the economic challenges the world is facing right now. So definitely this is an advantage that we are looking at.
Absolutely. Another field that has flourished and has always been flourishing, but now we see a lot of increase in the volume of trade. And we also see that the potential for future economic growth between the two nations will increase when it comes to that specific category. Can you elaborate on that?
Definitely. In the context of Malaysia, what we're looking at right now is on specific areas. As I mentioned, we are looking into Islamic banking, where we do have the experience in that, but in furtherance to that, Bahrain have an experience in fintech, which is also have greater expansion of value to Islamic banking. And by merging these two segments in the banking area would be a much more advantage for the banking sector to further grow in the Middle East as well in the Asian continent. We're also looking at into the approach of education, which is also equally very important, because you need to have skilled individuals in order for a country to develop. So in bridging that, during the visit of His Royal Highness to Malaysia, the two universities of Malaysia had signed a strategic cooperation with Bahrain universities, and to grow these particular elements further. And at the same time, we are also looking into the sector of economic progression projects. We're talking about probably the development plans of Bahrain, which Malaysia would like to be part together in the development projects of Bahrain. So definitely these areas are something that we see of great value of interest for Malaysia, particularly into Bahrain, because Bahrain has a lot of potential. And similarly, we hope Bahrain can also look at Malaysia as a potential investment for any businesses from Bahrain to grow in Malaysia.
Definitely. One of the things that we talked about in our last episode was tourism, and how it is on the way to grow steadily, especially in Malaysia and Bahrain specifically. But tourism also helped steadily in strengthening the people-to-people connection when it comes to that part of it. What can you tell us about how tourism did that?
Well, as the last record that we had by year end 2024, we have approximately arrived to almost 10,000 Bahrainis who have traveled to Malaysia for the span of 1 year. And the number we hope is going to grow further this year and next year, especially next year, where we will be celebrating, or not celebrating, we'll be hosting our Visit Malaysia 2026, which has much more greater opportunity for people to experience something new about Malaysia. Malaysia has been growing rapidly for the past 15 years, and there's new elements that has been incorporated into advancing tourism in Malaysia. And we are not competing with our neighbors. We are actually providing opportunity for everybody to grow together. And having people traveling from Bahrain to Malaysia definitely will aspire Bahrain as well, as it continues to grow its tourism sector, and to see and to learn as well on how Malaysia had developed its tourism sector. And we want to bring this to Bahrain. And Malaysia, you can also see Malaysian also traveling, have started to travel more to Bahrain, and looking at Bahrain as a center where they can experience a multitude of environment in the Middle East, because Bahrain itself is a melting pot of cultures and experience, you know, even food.
Yeah, definitely.
So it is something that nobody have never shown that in the eyes of Malaysian public, and this is where we are helping Bahrain to promote Bahrain in Malaysia through Tourism Malaysia.
Yes. Tourism is one point. You've already mentioned or talked a little bit about the other point, which is education. We see a lot more of graduates from Bahrain now approaching Malaysian universities and wanting to go study there. And it's been there for a while, but the number has significantly increased in the last period, especially with the innovative subjects that are being taught at Malaysian universities. Education, academic exchange are an area of interest already between both countries. Are there any active programs, scholarships between Malaysia and Bahrain?
Okay, to touch on education, I interestingly as how Bahrain had developed its strategy into the economic strategy of Bahrain. We actually tap into that strategy through our education sector. We actually come about with programs that is significantly of great interest for Bahrain to acquire those disciplines. As I mentioned earlier, in order for a country to develop, it needs to have a, a workforce that is educated and skilled. So with that, having that element in promoting education and also for Bahrain to actually take advantage upon, you can see the numbers have increased where quite a number of Bahrainis as well as expatriates from Bahrain are actually traveling to Malaysia to acquire education from Malaysia. Now, that being said, because of that, the Malaysian universities have seen the numbers of the flow of Bahrainis to Malaysia has continued to grow. Because of that, they started to also bringing about some some sponsorship or scholarships, offering them scholarships, and it might not be a total scholarship, but an opportunity for them to be subsidized with a certain amount, and especially on disciplines that probably could be too expensive for certain people to acquire those disciplines. Yes, we have, but it depends on the respective universities and discipline that's been offered to them. So these are the strategies that we are helping Bahrain to grow.
Yes, definitely. What are the key sectors that Malaysian citizens in Bahrain are currently engaged in? They are a very big part of the community when it comes to working and being a part of it. But where specifically do you see most of them?
Basically, historically anyway, Malaysia has been part of Bahrain's public sector services. Most of them are architects and engineers. They had contributed significantly into Bahrain's development programs. And this is where I mentioned, as you rightly put just now, they have contributed a lot. And I feel very much honored they are part of this development for the past years. Now, having the Bahrainization program taking place, some of them would now be moving into the private sector of Bahrain. And that's where the growth is what Malaysia is looking at. We want to be part of that growth as well, shifting from public sector into the private sector. And this is where we want to facilitate the development of Bahrain, because looking at Bahrain as an island, definitely tourism is the most ambitious sector that to bring in the economic infrastructure of Bahrain to grow progressively. But there's also the other sectors of Bahrain, especially in trading, especially in the infrastructure development programs, society development programs, which Malaysia is also very much involved in here, and as well as hospitality, definitely.
Yes, of course.
So we are very much encouraged by this, and Malaysia will always be with Bahrain because we do feel Bahrain as a partner, and many of them, living here minimum of 13 years, they feel Bahrain as their home, and they would not want to leave Bahrain indefinitely without having to contribute it further for the growth of Bahrain.
I definitely can relate to that as well. When it comes to Bahrain's Vision 2030, there are a lot of aspects of it that we see are aligned with Malaysia's national development goals. How are these creating opportunities for collaboration?
From the angle of development, one thing for sure, we are looking into ensuring the environmental program would be balanced on the economic progression of a country. As Bahrain is looking into the environmental impact studies of how they want to ensure that the growth of the country continues to be balanced in the perspective of economic development is also what Malaysia aspires to do. And looking in that particular context, we share the aspiration to ensure that the balanced approach on development of environmental protection programs is important. and that has been inspired by the leadership of Bahrain, sustainable development,
Yes.
Environmental impact protection programs, definitely is one of the things that we are looking at for Bahrain as well. And I hope that Bahrain can also look at Malaysia as a partner in that.
Yeah.
And we are part of this not only as Malaysia but also as ASEAN.
Yes.
Because as ASEAN continues to grow, we definitely need to ensure that the environmental impact towards the economic development is balanced out and be protected from climate change and everything.
Yeah.
So this is a very important point that both countries need to look at, and I think the leadership of Bahrain and Malaysia share the same sentiment and same value, that how this is where we will support Bahrain bilaterally as well as multilaterally in its engagement domestically as well as at the national fora.
Absolutely. When we look at, that's something actually I wanted to hit on a while ago. Sustainable development is a very big part of both countries' programs and national targets. We see Bahrain's movement towards green buildings, sustainable buildings, as well as also greenizing the landscapes of Bahrain in order to help with climate change. Do you see within the next 10 to 20 years, there's a big potential for collaboration when it comes to different fields, but specifically also sustainable development?
Yes, definitely. As I mentioned earlier to you, Sarah, we have been doing this for the past 15 odd years from Malaysia. The perception from the international community of Malaysia sometimes can be very negative as we are progressing rapidly in our economic development programs. But nonetheless, we always balance it, and there is a law that we established in Malaysia to ensure the protection of our environment is well protected against any industrialization program that is taking place in our country. Therefore, with this experience that we have, we definitely want to share this with Bahrain, and I can see the potential of Bahrain in that context, because Bahrain as an island has a lot of things that need to be protected from especially in this world climate change situation. Everything is actually having a lot of issues, and Bahrain have done a lot in the progression, and they are a party of many resolutions and also aspiration of the world and protecting the environment. And right now, even Bahrain is actually investing a lot in renewable energy, sustainable buildings, and whatnot. So these are the things that is similar to what Malaysia has, and the technology, the advances that Malaysia has can also contribute to Bahrain's aspiration in the particular sector.
Definitely. Even the protection of live areas such as the mangroves and other areas within Bahrain.
Yes. I have to congratulate Bahrain in that.
Yeah.
The strategy of Bahrain in growing mangrove protection its shores is definitely an aspiration for Malaysia.
Definitely looking forward to seeing more when it comes to that. But Your Excellency, how do you see Bahrain relations heading to, let's say, the next 20 years?
I don't have a magic not to say roadmap, more of a magical ball to actually see the future. But one thing that I can see, looking from the angle of how the leadership of both countries aspires the relationship to grow, definitely you can see the strength of relations economically and politically will grow further, which is something that Bahrain can take leadership in the GCC as well within the Arab League circle. Similarly for Malaysia, because as we have, Bahrain was the chair of the Arab League. It will become the next Arab League chair in the coming times. Malaysia will end its chairmanship of ASEAN this year, by end of this year, and then we'll go through the cycle again in the next 10 years. And now with Timor-Leste being a new member of the ASEAN circle, it shows that now the leadership of Bahrain and Malaysia will continue to grow further, because having the aspiration, having the entirety of looking forward in how to bring or bridge the economic and also the sustainable progression of a country is very important for things to develop. Now, that being said, the population of Bahrain aspires to live in a much more conducive environment, a much more, I would say, happy environment.
Yeah.
A happy country makes a happy people.
Yeah.
Similarly for Malaysia, we want to prosper together with Bahrain. 20, 30 years later, I believe Bahrain can be the next champion in the fintech, for example. It could be the next banking hub for the Middle East. Who knows? 30 years later. Because looking at the new plans that Bahrain has, you are actually on the right track. I believe, as an ambassador, I believe. Malaysia also have its short-term plans and long-term plans. It takes time. Everything requires time and planning and the aspiration of leaders. But right now, looking how the two countries are strategically moving its economic progression, we are on the right path. And we hope as the world starts to progress, they will see less, I would say, geopolitical pressure, as well as economic pressure, because as the world continues to become smaller in terms of connectivity, there's a lot more challenges.
Absolutely.
That's where we need to become better friends, create understanding, create a mutual benefit for both countries to grow. And this is how ASEAN actually works its plan. We prosper Thai neighbor, prosper together with the neighbor.
Yes.
Now, having the bridge I mentioned earlier, the ASEAN, GCC, China, we want to prosper together. And maybe 20, 30 years later, we'll see something different where connectivity between two countries is, I don't know.
No, definitely. I mean, I see where you're going with the point, because both countries, Malaysia and Bahrain, have significantly achieved so much within their own respective fields. Your Excellency, if anybody can talk about Bahrain and their experience, it is you. You've been here for 4 years now. So on a personal level, what has your experience been like living and performing duties as an ambassador in the Kingdom of Bahrain?
First and foremost, I have to thank the people of Bahrain and the leadership of Bahrain for giving me a place where I can grow as an ambassador. The challenges that has been provided for me to work things forward in building the relations further. The people are very warm. The leadership have been very warm, very approachable, and that makes the work of an ambassador very much happy. I can't say happy, it's more of enable us to really target ourselves constructively and moving forward. And for me as an ambassador, the progression of my task here is really something I personally take as of great value. As I mentioned earlier, at the earlier stage, it was a bit tough for me because I just came out and been stationed here slightly after COVID, and had to bring that relationship and bridging this relationship with the struggle, and then later. But Bahrain actually helped me a lot in allowing me to move things forward, as Malaysia was still in a slightly lockdown at that particular period. And 3 years, second year, third year, and fourth year I've been here, you can see the fruits of my labor in that context. We have seen my Prime Minister coming here, and we had the exchange of visits from the leadership of Bahrain and Malaysia. We have seen the progression of the ministers building relations and exchange of MOUs taking place. We have seen Malaysia small medium industries penetrating into certain sectors of Bahrain. You have seen the number of tourism between Bahrain and Malaysia starting to grow. You have seen movement of education, which it was at the lesser number, now has grown further, as you rightly mentioned earlier. So these are considered as an achievement for me. And this all cannot happen without, it's not only me, it's a the team from Malaysia and the team from Bahrain that actually making this happen. And Bahrain really helped me a lot as an ambassador here. So thank you, Bahrain.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I mean, before we let you go, one point just to talk about a little bit. The Kingdom of Bahrain and its people are known for their welcoming nature, for the way, as you've mentioned before, it is a melting pot of cultures and everybody is welcome. And the Kingdom of Bahrain, its citizens, its residents, everybody who has been on this ground value peace, coexistence and tolerance, not just on a regional level, but also on a global level. Malaysians as well. The Malaysians that are living here value those specific things that the Kingdom of Bahrain and its people give as well, and there's always been a harmony. What can you tell us about how that kind of nature makes Bahrain an ideal spot either for tourism or for future endeavors?
The values that Bahrain has should not die out. A value. This is a strong value that is uniquely Bahrain. I believe when my interaction with any ambassadors who had been stationed here will always say Bahrain is uniquely Bahrain. The people here carries great value and depth and care, not only for the country but for their own people.
Yes.
And what inspires them to be that in such a way is because of the leadership of Bahrain, by his leadership, by His Majesty, and also by the Crown Prince, His Royal Highness himself. Yeah. And these elements have actually impacted the Malaysian who have lived here in Bahrain. They carry this with a lot of aspiration to support this development of Bahrain. For me, in the context of how Malaysia sees Bahrain, is also of the nature of Bahrain, where we share a lot of similarities. A trading nation, leadership that aspires to bring countries to go beyond its present development. We're talking about progression. Yeah. A leadership that sees a country that has a lot of potential to grow, and the aspiration of country who embraces peace and coexistence, the values that is very important for a country to grow. The leadership of Bahrain have continually and repeatedly mentioned about peaceful coexistence. Malaysia do the same thing as well. We value peace. We want to see peace in the region. We want to see peace in order for us to grow. In the region of ASEAN, we also have issues. Yeah. But we always try to discuss and bring those nations together. Yeah. For to value peace. Do not find any issue that will probably create animosity between the countries. Yeah. And we want to, when we see Bahrain as a leader in this region, and Malaysia, we aspire to become leader in such context, but we are doing it together with all the ASEAN countries. So having this understanding brings about how we see of great value how Bahrain can continue to aspire the other countries in the region to move into a much more conducive environment for the countries and the countries in the region to grow.
Your Excellency, thank you very much for being with us today. I'm very proud and honored to have had you for the second time and to see all of these updates on everything that we talked about and all of the things that we will see in the future. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and thank you again to Bahrain TV for having me. I can really say I'm proud and deeply honored to be serving here in Bahrain. Having this second time is always uniquely special for me. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And we would like to thank you, dear viewers, for watching us, and we'll see you next week in another episode of Panoramic Edition.